Welcome back for another episode of the Cannabis Community Insider. My name is Abraham Villegas. I am your host today, and today we have a very exciting episode to present you. We are going to be interviewing 6 exclusive groups of social equity applicants in the state of Illinois who not only applied for a license, but were actually selected to participate in the lottery. We have not heard their stories before, and today is the first time that we'll be able to listen and learn more about who they are, what brings them to the industry, and what their plans are for 2021 pending a license. We've got a lot of exciting things to talk about today. So with further ado, I'm going to introduce our co-host, Mark Peysakhovich, who will introduce our guests and get the show started. It's off to you, Mark.
Hello, everybody. Very exciting. So we're doing the 6 in the mix, what we think of as the true 6 social equity applicants who are now in the lottery. And I guess there's actually only 5 out of the 6, but I think you're all represented, as it were. So, include your 6th partner in the introductions, whoever wants to take that on. Rather than talking about each one of you, I think it's just easier to just move right in and ask each of you to just introduce yourselves, your company, and maybe your company philosophy. Of course, we don't have a lot of time, so if you could do it relatively quickly in sound bites, that would be great. But we'll just do, we'll do ladies first. I think we're all okay with that. Alphabetically, we'll pick on Edie first. So, Edie, good to see you. Tell the world's going to want to know. So, tell everyone who doesn't already know Edie who Edie is, and tell us about Terra House.
Well, hi, Mark. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Edie Moore. Most people, if they do know me as the executive director of Chicago Normal. I'm not here today representing Chicago Normal, although that is one of the hats that I wear very proudly all the time. But today I'm here representing my company that applied for dispensary and grow and transportation and infusion license, Terra House. I applied with my husband as a social equity applicant. We live in a DIA. We are both veterans. And we put together our team because we have been here before. We also applied in the medical round and won 2 licenses, both to grow and to dispense. Although we were successful in that endeavor, we were not able to hold on because we were such low equity holders, and we were determined that was not going to be us this time. So we are running our company together, and we're so happy to be here to talk about it.
Thank you, Edie, very much. Kiana, back to you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. My name is Kiana Hughes. I am here representing our group, So Baked LLC. I am actually a smaller share owner of that company. It is 51% owned by Brittany and also Tyrone Branch, who is a veteran. They both live in DIAs. I'm here as the spokesperson for that particular group. And what makes So Baked such a different and unique, part of even why I signed on with this team is because Brittany and Tyrone's vision of what they want So Baked to be a place for everybody. So very inclusive of the LGBTQIA plus community, as well as, Blacks and Latinx and all the people. It's just a very inclusive space. And just a really great vision for providing opportunities for, youth, of course, of age, but to really be able to receive training, as well as a place to, be a part of the industry and a place to just really learn and grow. And so that is why we exist. And that's why I joined that team. And that's why I'm here today.
Wonderful. So why don't we move to Donte, good to see you here today. Thanks for being with us. For those perhaps few folks who don't know who you are and who you represent, would you tell us a little bit?
How you doing? I'm Donte Townsend. I represent Make Peace LLC, which is a 51% minority veteran-owned company. Myself, I come from a disproportionately impacted area, and I qualify as a social equity applicant. Me and my team are an organic set of individuals that have always been in this cannabis space and have came together because we knew that we could, compile a great application and be able to compete amongst the existing operating market. Together, we all came to really make an impactful change, immediately once we get our license, as far as our whole just agenda to be able to not only get a license, but to be able to open doors and opportunities for people that look at us for entry into this industry. So our kind of motto is to just really be, loving and organic, and then also to be able to be competitive and skillful at what we do.
Well, thank you. And seeing as how this is not actual television, it gives me the opportunity to add commentary because I don't have to be an unbiased news outlet. And so one thing that if you don't mind, if I take a second just to point out, one of the things that I got to know the first about Donte years ago is his family, because I noticed he'd bring his beautiful kids and wife to these rallies. And there was one time in particular where Donte spoke and his kids and wife were standing in the back of the room. And I looked at his kids' faces and they just absolutely lit up because their daddy was at the front of the room and everybody was paying attention to him and he was the big man in the room. And that's when I really realized as a white guy just how important this is on so many other levels other than just cannabis in and of itself. So that was sort of an epiphany moment for me, but it also speaks to the long haul. You were here, putting yourself out, putting your family out there, taking valuable family time and doing, the community's work. And I'd just be remiss if I didn't comment on that. That always stuck in my head. So I apologize for going on this riff, but I wanted to note it. So we'll do what I wanted to do. If you'll notice with my method to my madness is we started with Terra House. So we'll wrap up with Terra House and we'll go to row next of Green Equity Ventures. And I actually have a great anecdote about Row. You and I don't know each other well, but I'm a consultant. I help people with licenses, among other things. And I had the other Green Equity Ventures as a client. And so for about 30 seconds there, I got real excited when the names came out. And then I went, oh, but you know what? Frankly, if you know me, you know that I'm just as happy to see you get it. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your Green Equity Ventures as well as yourself.
So our company's name is actually Green Equity Ventures 1. So you can remain Green Equity Ventures. As you mentioned, my name is Ro Davis. I am the social equity applicant for our group. I'm 51% owner. I'm a veteran, 13 years, and I live in an area that was disproportionately affected by the war on drugs. Before the cannabis industry, I am an activist and an entrepreneur for the last 20 years. I'm a developer. I currently own a couple of business incubators where we're working to rebuild the community. We are working primarily along 79th Street to create what we call the Blacknificent Mile, miles and miles of thriving Black businesses. And so one of the things that we wanted to do with Green Equity Ventures 1 is we wanted to create a funding source that would empower our vision to redevelop our community. The war on drugs destroyed it, and we want to use the plant to rebuild it. And we also want to be able to pull more African Americans forward so that we can create more equity in the space. So we're a mission-driven company, very deeply rooted in community development. You know, there is a discussion on the table about, you know, what are the individuals who are going to get a license? What are they going to put back in the community? Well, you don't have to guess at what we'll do because we're already doing it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And I'd be, again, remiss to say, as a refugee who came here when I was 10 years old from a place where I was beaten up for my religion, just want to thank you for being a veteran. There are, what I have here, what my daughter has here is not free. You paid the price, and so did other veterans, and that's why I believe strongly that veterans ought to have a role to play in these applications or the veteran status, albeit in a way that's fair for everybody. But I want to thank you for your service, Rowan. Sean, so Sweet Greens, what's up with Sweet Greens?
My name is Sean Mason. I'm representing Sweet Greens. It's MVO with the Walter Killingsworth is the 51% minority owner. Sweet Greens basically is friends coming together from a real estate background, hence the name Sweet, then Greens. I myself am strictly on the South Side as a developer, as a rehabber. I have over 40 units on the South Side, and that business is called Building Better Communities. So what Sweet Greens is about is really community driven. We really want to give back. And I think our philosophy is just to try to find ways to get better each and every day and help as many people as we possibly can.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And I guess we'll circle back to Craig from Terra House now. Craig, you want to help yourself and, whatever Edie might have missed?
Well, Edie did an excellent job.
She never misses a thing.
Not much. So in any case, she did a good job of describing Terra House and why we were in this. The only thing that I would add is that the idea behind what we were trying to do with this project was improve upon our performance the last time around and help try to bring some of this home, try to bring it back into economic activity. And not all of it has to do with growing the plants. It's the business of building these businesses and expanding them. We want to bring that to the area. It'll be good for whatever area it's in, and we'd like to bring some of that home because we think there's a lot of people around here that would benefit from it and appreciate it. So that's it for now.
All right. Well, thank you. So I think we all talk about social equity, and a lot of us or a lot of folks have started using the term true social equity or true social equity applicants. I think as is the case with a lot of things in our world, it sort of becomes code words for a definition, but I don't think everybody necessarily has the same definition in mind. And so I thought what would be really useful would be to sort of, go around the horn again. And by the way, don't feel like you have to answer every question, but starting with Edie, I'm sure you've given some thought to what that really means, Edie, which is true social equity. What does that mean to you? And I guess, if that's, grassroots, what's AstroTurf maybe? What's not true social equity by implication?
You keep picking on me first, but that's okay. I have an answer. Well, we've discussed that in this amongst this group here. And we believe that what makes us different and what makes us true social equity is that we are not backed by any MSO whatsoever. We own and we plan to be owners and operators of our organizations, and there's no management agreement to dig down into. It's us. We're creating this for us, by us.
does that ring true to all of you? Does anybody want to add anything? I see Ro unmuted. Ro?
Yeah, I'll add. I think she beautifully said it, but I would just simply add that we are unapologetically Black. We are indigenous to the community, and we're already rooted. And I believe that we all represent the legitimate aspirations of our community, who desperately want to play a role in this industry. And so we are the hope and the promise that there is fairness in the process. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add anything to that? If not, we will just, Edie.
I would also add that we might want to talk about where we got our funding. Our funding is also organically biased. We didn't reach out to, we reached out to people who look like us first for funding, bootstrapping it the whole way. And I know that that's probably no different than any others or a lot of others. But I think that's important, where we got the money.
Kiana, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, but it wasn't about where we got the money though, so I don't know.
That's fine. We're good.
Okay.
It's a free-flowing conversation. I think where you got the money is an important point, but you're not on all here to provide your financial disclosures. You did that in application, so we're not going to grill you on that. But I think that people of color trying to bring other people of color into ownership in this industry and creating what we talk about as intergenerational wealth, I think is obviously very, very meaningful, but not the only thing. But Kiana, go for it.
Sure, and I only say that because I do think that's a conversation and a discussion worth having. And so, hopefully that'll be we talked about that a little bit last night. So I know that's going to be a formal, actual question.
Okay.
And finance aside, outside of the funding, social equity is on the component of people who've been adversely impacted by the war on drugs, right? And I think we all have a lot of experience in that. Some of us have been to jail, some of us have been arrested. That is the point of social equity, that we've got family members who sit in prison cells while we see our counterparts raising capital and hitting late stage exits. So what's that side of the story? How are you social equity? How has the drug war impacted you and the people that you love?
Thank you for that, alley-oop, Abraham, because what I was going to say when we were talking about, first of all, the general idea of what is social equity, I didn't mention it when I introduced myself, but I am who should be considered a social equity applicant. But because for whatever reason, my specific zip code didn't end up in the mix, right? And my father's, criminal record was a lot more complicated and spans, my entire lifetime and whatever else. So there's a lot there, right? My father literally spent decades of his life and my life jail, in and out of jail. And as a result of, and certainly as a victim of the war on drugs. So I'm certainly an affected individual. I would say that I feel like the scope of what is social equity as it's defined in our law, it does some good things, but I think it's kind of narrow in how it defines it. And, sometimes the shit you go through and what how it's impacted you, those are not necessarily documentable, provable things, right? I guess I could show you my letters from my daddy when he was in prison all throughout my life. I got a whole stack of them, right? I could bring my daddy in for an interview and he could talk to you about some things, but it's not always just as cut and dry or as, you know what I'm saying, as clean cut as that. I would also say that it is not, as it's defined in the law, it is not limited to or defined by race or ethnicity or anything like that, right? And I also want to be clear, it is not, in my opinion, it is not a woman it is not a woman's rights type of issue either. So even as a woman, I feel like, yeah, there are ways that women have suffered because of the war on drugs, but when we're looking at like the statistics, when we're looking at, you know, the deeper issues of it, chances are there's some intersectionality there. So if you are a woman that was affected by the war on drugs, you're going to be a social equity applicant because of some of those other parts anyway, right? And so I don't like it when issues get clouded. I don't necessarily, no offense at all to our veterans, I don't necessarily feel like it's a veteran issue, but that wasn't lumped in with social equity in the law or on the application. So I want to make sure that we're clear even in what is, you know, and what's what, because there's a lot of misinformation about there. There's a lot of controversy about them 5 points for being a veteran, so on and so forth. And I just want to make sure that we're clear and we're speaking from a clear perspective of what is social equity and what is not.
That's a fantastic response. And I see, Donte, you've also raised your hand. You got something to say. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I do. I believe I'm social equity because to me, what that represented when they intentionally put that in there, you know, was really how most people look at it as poor Black people. I am a 32-year-old Black man from Chicago. I represent a demographic of those that are young Black men that are either targeted of cannabis convictions or cannabis crimes and are the product of children from cannabis crimes, like Kiana had mentioned. So me being 32 in my timeline, I personally had parents who have been victims of the war on drugs. You know, was born in Chicago, experienced the Robert Taylor projects, and being a part of, you know, poor people culture in Chicago, growing up in the hood, to be honest. That's social equity. And now being able to be a potential business owner in this industry that they only see us as consumers is threatening. But for me, it's powerful, and it's even more powerful to be able to give other people a vision of this is what ownership looks like. It's not the white man in the suit all the time. And even further, you know, really leading a way for people to want to legitimize themselves in this industry and making a fortune for their families as generational wealth. So it's more about obtaining this license. It's about providing a way for people to have an avenue to expand their dreams throughout what we're doing. So, you know, that's really why I believe I'm a social equity applicant, because I'm a product of cannabis crime and culture in Chicago, growing up in Chicago and in Chicago surroundings, having to deal with coming up in the 90s or whatnot, and growing up and experiencing the Chicago cannabis culture, you know, not the corporate cannabis culture that exists today. So it's really more about spreading that methodology of involvement.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. It rings true to the fact of people who spent all their lives growing up in these types of communities, and unless you come from that experience, you don't necessarily know what it's like to have to wake up and go to sleep in those types of neighborhoods, and the insecurity of safety that you have for yourself and your family throughout that period. Ro, Sean, what about you guys? What makes you social equity?
Well, I myself was not social equity, but our veteran Walter was. He was social equity by address, and then also with drug convictions. I've had family members who were incarcerated because of the war on drugs, and like so many others, like Donte experienced, you know, you don't know, you know, on a day-to-day basis, how things are going to go when someone goes to jail, or how when they come back, how they will reenact with the community. I think it definitely impacted our family quite a bit, and it changes so much the demographic of your community as well.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Ro?
Yeah, well, I've only known these communities. I grew up on the southeast side of Chicago. My entire life has been, on the south side beyond going to college. And so living in that environment, you have a diversity of friends, who are drug dealers, people, but they're also students and doing very positive things. It's not a new idea that marijuana would be the catalyst to finance your dreams. I had a lot of friends that's been using marijuana to finance their dreams. Hell, I did it to finance my dreams at a point.
Everybody's first startup.
Yeah. Fortunately, I
Everybody's.
I was never smart enough to actually save the money I was making, so I should have planned better. But I suppose that that serves the white guy right. But again, to that point, people ask me, how long have you been in the cannabis world? How long have you been working in cannabis? And I say since I was 14 years old. But I had protection, my white skin, so it wasn't the same experience. But I just wanted to acknowledge that, it's a thing. It helped me get through college.
Absolutely. So I don't think that there's really much more to add. I think that everyone on the line has really made the definition. I would be simply belaboring the point. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in an area disproportionately impacted by drugs. I'm a part of the culture, and I sold drugs. There it is. About it.
I have a question for any of you that want to take it on. I'm just curious, in terms of the way that the law was written, is it, and I understand there are legal issues and constitutional issues, but if we could have it written in a way that says give X amount of licenses or give all licenses to, Black and brown people, would that have been, if we could do it, should have we done it that way? Or do you think we should be looking at the sort of the war on drugs and other things? White guys got arrested too. We just didn't necessarily get treated and beat up like you guys.
Right.
So the point is,
Right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark. No, that was Craig. You go ahead, Mark. I was going to address that.
Oh yeah, that's the question. Is do you think we could have done it better if it was allowed legally? Is this the right track, or can we specify?
I think that there is an intention to kind of have the thing evolve, and that's what the measurement through the disparity study is designed to do, is to give them leave to do that. Because I don't think it's reasonable or fair to try to make these licenses say Black licenses, and that's what they're claiming that they were, and they're not. It's not legal to do that. It's unconstitutional to do that. But what you can say is the things that they have tried to do, which were say that if you are affected by it in this way, then we will give you some preference. Or if you live in an area that's been disproportionately impacted by the behavior. But then they add into that if you also throw some money at this, hire some people, that you will also get that preference. And some people are complaining about that as a dilution of the equity effort. But what I guess my point is that it seems as though this stuff is evolving, and that we can guide the evolution, which is one of the reasons that we're coming out now to start to speak, and so that we can help influence the conversation about that stuff, because there's so much noise out here. It seems necessary.
You guys are definitely going to be leaders, so I think a lot of us are glad that you are coming out and sharing your thoughts. Ro, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that conversation. You know, I don't know about the constitutionality of how we make those distinctions so that we can give people of color, Black people, the edge, if you will, because one of the things, but we need to, you know, it's kind of like, you know, they didn't play fair in putting us in this condition. And so I don't know why we got to play fair to get out. And, you know, the thing is very concerning even now to me. You know, we qualified, we beat the odds in terms of with social equity, all of these things, and now I'm in a lottery. I'm in a lottery with people who aren't necessarily Black and brown in terms of their positioning, and they, because of the capitalization that they bring to the table, they have more balls in the pot. And so now social equity is not a big issue when you bring the lottery into place, because now I'm just a guy in the mix with other people, and we're back to this capital thing. So I don't know about the constitutionality, but what I do know is that, you know, we've got to figure out, and I believe that the law, you know, the state is trying to figure this out. I don't know how we do it, but we need to make a move that empowers Black people. That's what reparations is about. You know, the ability to repair what has been broken. And it might not be a way for us to play fair to do that, you know. So I don't know. You know, it's just a thought.
Listen, I don't disagree with you on all of that. And I understand even the questions like, look, if y'all been cheating forever, why do we have to play fair? Right, I get that. So listen, that disparity study is designed, as far as I can tell right now, with that in mind, where what they're going to do with the disparity study, measure how much cheating has actually been occurring. And then you can use that as a basis of argument to say that we do need to set this many aside for this specific group. And the reason why is because we have all this math now that shows it's empirical data. You can't argue with it.
I want to make sure my Mexican brother Abraham has a chance to participate as well, and that I'm not the only one talking. Abraham, you want to jump in?
Absolutely. So social equity aside, winning these licenses, knowing a little bit more about who you are is fantastic. I always enjoy getting to know you guys on a deeper level. As always, I'm curious to learn from one enthusiast to another. What brought your love for cannabis? Why are you spending so much time from other hobbies, interests, and opportunities to invest all of that into this industry? And what does it mean for you? Because I know for sure at least half of you. I've seen you guys for the last 5-6 years now at every single event and conference and expo and speaking opportunity. Dude, I can't even count how many times I've seen you guys on stage or vice versa, leading the conversation and doing the work, man, for people who have been underrepresented in our communities. There's only one reason that you do that. It's either you're insane or you really love cannabis, or a combination of both. And I'm curious to learn, what is it for you? By all means, don't jump in all at once, but whoever wants to go first, shoot.
I'll go because my story is a little bit different than my colleagues. I don't consume a lot of cannabis. I came to the space first as a failed, and it's not really failed business owner, because we learned a lot. So I don't consider that a failure at all. But I also came as a caregiver to my mother. And that was seeing her benefit from cannabis and understanding that she was really only getting that access because of me, hit me like a ton of bricks. I needed to make sure that that access was available to everyone. Somebody asked me the other day, what would I do if I would be sure not to fail? And I said, to cure cancer, because I saw how it helped my mom. And I wanted so desperately to make sure that everybody knew who didn't understand how to get access, how it can help you, how to learn more. And then that turned into how to get jobs and all of that. And, I credit Donte with bringing me into this as an organization, as an advocate. He said, hey, we should do this. And I was like, damn it, you're right. How do we do this? So let's do it. And so we just took off running, and it's been like this ever since.
I remember eating pizza with you and Craig at the Windy City Cannabis educational outreach events that initially took place. And in fact, that's exactly where we met. We shared a slice of Domino's pizza and sat next to each other. And from there,
Hey, the City Hall, that's right.
It's been awesome, right in Worth, in our hometown on the south side. So we've got long roots and starts from way back when, man. It feels like, that it was just yesterday, but it's unbelievable to hear and see that 6 years have passed.
And I'd like to say something. Yeah,
Abraham,
it's been all the years that have passed. But I'd like to say something too about why we're in this space, is that there is so much opportunity in this space right now. And it's not just with the plant. There's all these trades that'll start happening if people if we can get over the stigma. But there is reason that people have stayed away or been kind of standoffish with cannabis, because it hadn't been a good thing for us. People have been using this plant for millennia. It's not killing anyone. It never has, and it does all these great things. But there were all these negative consequences that were tied to it for us, and so we're overcoming that stuff. But once people are overcoming Abraham, it's going to it'll be a really cool thing, I hope. And that's why I'm in this. I want to see that. See something that was so negative not be that anymore. So, because it isn't.
Bro, did you want to jump in?
Yeah. So my motivation, of course, I'm a cannabis user, but I understand business, and in business, timing and positioning is everything. Being at the right place at the right time has a value. And I've committed my life's work to empowering our people economically and politically. That's why we started the Business Center, to help people bring their ideas from their imagination and put them in vacant storefronts. And so, I see this industry as an opportunity for us to be able to leave wills and not bills to our children. I really want to play a significant role in bringing more people of color, into the industry, because I think that it's the gold rush, or the green rush, if you will. And without a guide, because you have a lot of entrepreneurs in our community, but because we didn't grow up in a culture of entrepreneurism, there is a learning curve. And that's what I've committed myself to do. And so the ability to have the license beyond the obvious, it also gives me the ability to chart a clear path forward for our community. So
that's awesome, man. I'd shake your hand in person if I could. I saw Donte, you raise your hand. What are your thoughts, my man?
I would say why I started this or whatnot. I love smoking weed because it really helps me with a lot of different things. But I really wanted to be able to be a grower and touch the plant and everything until I started trying to dive into every situation dealing with cannabis. I started to learn so different, so just so much from cannabis, from hemp, business development, and just the whole operations of everything. So being able to see the financials on a lot of those things really kind of gave me motivation to say, I could set my family straight on this legally, and to be able to do it amongst those that you've asked to reach those, climb up those ladders and not to depend on that is really important for me. Everybody wants to either be a bud tender or work in a dispensary or work at a grow or whatnot. But for me, it was to be able to see the actual business development, what entices me. So that's kind of what keeps me going. Because like I had mentioned earlier, we're only looked at as consumers. Everyone has an idea that develops a lot better than regulated markets. And, I just see the benefit of that and investing in that. There are guys that want to be in this industry but don't know where to start, that have a connection to us. And I believe in building in that because I know what it's like to know the Crescos, the Revolutions, the GTIs, and know the owners and be known within this industry. And they still won't hire your ass. So you got to make your own way. And that's really what keeps me going, I guess, is being able to making these guys have to work with me one way or other. And I'd rather it be from an ownership perspective.
That's awesome, man. Hats off to you. And I can totally relate to that sentiment. And I'm sure everyone else on this call too. I think Kiana has something to say about that as well. What are your thoughts, Kiana?
Yeah, it's really like to be right here, right now. First of all, with Edie and Craig is like a real full circle moment for me because I started accidentally in this industry. My friend asked me to go with her or to help her with her first Women Grow chapter meeting. And I was just like, cool. I didn't even know like this was happening, right? And so Edie spoke at that thing, and she was talking about, being a licensee and what they were going through and how they were starting. And I was just like, shit, are you kidding me? Like, I had never heard people talk about weed like that. And to be honest,
that was the first time I ever spoke too. I was terrified.
Yeah, and Craig came with her, and her family was there, and like, turns out my cousin came. It was like just the weirdest thing. And so from that, I just started like going to different stuff. And nobody was talking about it that way. And not even just from a business and money perspective, but even from a medical cannabis, like, cause at that time this opportunity did not exist. Like, and there literally were I remember when we first started with Women Grow, and it was supposed to be about like, helping women start businesses or be CEOs or whatever. And it was like, there really weren't any opportunities at that point. And it was really hard to make your own, business opportunities. So my whole thing was, I just want the people in the south suburbs to talk about weed like the people in the north, like way up north do. I just want us to start having these conversations, right? And I just started doing outreach and education and, going to, in my involvement with Women Grow, blew my mind. Go to Colorado, go to Denver to the Women Grow, summit. I'm literally standing outside of a hotel smoking weed with like a gang of white women. And I'm like, at first, I'm like, I am not even participating because I don't want to get arrested. Like,
did the weed bus pull up and everybody was able to go and get some products there too?
Exactly. The weed bus pulls up. We all it was just a life-changing, like,
a whole different world.
What in the world is going on here? Yeah.
Yep.
Totally. It makes you wonder, are we smoking the same thing? Like, it's a whole different conversation on the south side and on the north side.
Well, it's like, this can't be right. You're looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, these crazy white people, what the hell are they doing?
Exactly, Mark. You're like, y'all can do that.
Yeah, exactly. I stood on the other side, and this is like a ritzy hotel in downtown Denver, and nobody's batting an eye, and I'm just like, I'm gonna just wait and see what happens.
That's how you get raided.
And listen, we're laughing about it, but I hear you, Kiana. That's the thing. It's like, look, we want same rules for everybody all the time. Same rules for everybody. So,
Yep.
but we know that hasn't been the case. But
It's
Yeah.
humor and trauma, right?
Hey,
Because it's
Yeah.
centered around the trauma that we legit do have to look over our
I
shoulder.
gotta-
Like, that is the thing.
I got a question that I wanted to come back to because we get this question a lot. A lot of you that it was triggered sort of the question. I'm thinking about the question because of what Kiana talked about and what we've talked about before with Donte and Edie. So on the screen, in this conversation, there are a number of advocates. So these are folks who have come and tried to actively make room at the table for other people who look like them. And I'll just leave it at that with that description because I'll let you talk more about that. But so to me, it seems like it makes complete sense that the advocates should be in line to participate in industry that they've been advocating to open up in the first place for a very long time. That just makes sense to me that, why couldn't you participate in what you're opening up for others? Be that as it may, I'll just keep my, well, it's too late. I already ventured my Caucasian perspective, but I should have kept it to myself before I asked you guys a question. But do any of you who are advocates really want to talk about, sort of the dues that you've had to pay? You know what I'm talking about? So on the one hand, you're advocating, on the other hand, you're applying. How do you answer those questions?
Well, let's hear from Sean too. You've been quiet for a second.
First, I was just going to answer about the previous questions about, I really got into the cannabis by accident. I had a friend, actually, he's the MBO, Walton Killingsworth. His mother was really regressing in cancer. And I was just going back to California a lot. And I said, I'll stop into this cannabis store, and it was MedMen. And I said, I'll see if I can have something that may be able to help her symptoms for some of her chemotherapy and other things she was taking. So I went in, and the place was packed. And I was like, this was my first time ever stepping into a dispensary. And I was like, oh, man. And they gave me a couple things to give back to her. I gave it to Walter. He told me it helped her so much. I was like, oh, really? I was really shocked how much he said it helped. And then as I kept going to workshops and seminars, and I went to one workshop with Edie, and it was on Wacker Drive all the way up, extremely nice office. And I heard her speak, and I got hooked. And I said, I think this is something that it gave us the confidence and the knowledge that we can move forward. And from there, we said, hey, we're gonna give it our all and move forward with this in this direction.
Right. Sorry, I jumped on the prior question without giving everybody a chance to speak, but I do know a few of you want to speak on this anyway. So I thought Craig was unmuted himself when we initially started talking. So Craig, you want to take a shot?
No, you know what? There's been enough said on that. There's some other things I would love for us to get into, and so I don't want to burn up all the time.
Do it. Run it. You got a minute.
Oh, well, listen, the things I was hoping that we would talk about were some of the things that as people on the list and on the tied applicant list, we have been kind of quiet in terms of, we've just been trying to stay out of the limelight. Anybody was standing up. Edie was getting beaten up because of her role with Normal. And of course, that was just incensing me because as far as I can tell, the whole reason that a lot of this stuff is even open for discussion and available is because of what they were doing at Normal. So my hope was that we could start talking about, first off, that we are out here, which we're starting to do, but talk about one of the reasons that we were doing this was the beneficial part of it for the community. But there's an economic piece of this that I don't hear anybody talking about, and we're all dramatically affected by it. And so, I wanted to make sure that we touch on that.
Craig, go for it.
Yeah.
Get us going on that.
Yeah, well, you know what, Mark? It really is just as simple as there's $100 million a month that's changing hands that we're locked out of participating in. And the whole reason for us to engage in this process is to try to somehow engage in that market. And we're just having to watch it through the fence. And it's
Well,
discouraging.
Edie, do you feel like history repeating itself? Sort of people treading water from your first time around, people treading water, sort of bleeding money, waiting. It seems to me like a sure way to sort of have an anti-social equity kind of a thing happening. How quickly does this need to move in order to make sure people don't, don't go bankrupt waiting?
That's a really good question. This needs to move now. It needed to move months ago. People are bleeding money, particularly those folks in the craft grow line. We haven't been able to determine what's holding that up, but for dispensary, as far as I can see, what's holding things up are disputes and lawsuits. So we've kind of worked on a plan to give everybody what they're asking for so that everybody can move forward. It feels like there's this roadblock, and I use my hands a lot, sorry. It feels like there's this boulder in the road, and if we just roll that away, the whole thing can shoot back, can start moving. And you asked about the previous round. So we were bleeding money before we got our license the previous time. We spent $2.5 million just to get the license. We hadn't even gotten open yet. And so a lot of the work that me and my colleagues did over the years, or a lot of the proposals that we wrote and the opinions that we wrote and sitting across from different folks to conceive of this opportunity, we made sure that this time you didn't have to spend and bleed money initially like we did before. So thank you, Craig, for the shout out to Chicago NORML, but we didn't do it on our own, but we did play a role and really study. It was our job, our work to study this law, to study and interpret for other folks how to do it.
Yep. Because think about it, in the last round, in the medical round, remember you had to, for a dispensary, you had to control real estate. Huge barrier to entry for anyone to be in there, having to buy a building or tie it up. You didn't have to do that this time around. It seems small, but it's a huge change. There are a lot of people that participate this time that you just wouldn't have been able to do it unless you had the money to buy a building. And it was an issue.
And in order to market, to your point, in order to get this moving, we all need to work like ants. We all need to be pushing in the same direction forward.
Right. So I'm curious about that, Edie. I want to know what the thinking is from you guys in terms of going forward. But Ro, I wanted to say something.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what she just said around the unity, and that is the primary reason why we are coming and stepping forward to give our narrative, because there's a lot of discussion about being disenfranchised and individuals who didn't make the cut based on whatever irregularities, and we wanted to be respectful of their ability to mitigate that, but at the end of the day, this whole process is causing all of us to miss out on a multi-billion-dollar run. And, the unity can come. That's why we're saying, keep the six in the mix. Fight for your positioning, but we have some individuals who are positioned, and we did the right. Not that they didn't do the right thing. The universe, hey, we're next in line. And I think that the unity comes when some of those teams may be willing to make the sacrifice. Because certainly when we open the door, you know, I think I speak for everybody on the line when I say everybody's willing to reach back. You know, so we have got to work these things out of the country in terms of equity and African Americans. It's not perfect. And, you know, it's a competitive process. So, you know, everybody's not going to make it the first time. But I think that if we get more people of color, you know, who are allowed to go through, then we can chart a clear path forward for those who didn't make it that time. So that's where we are. We want to keep the six in the mix, you know, both in, you know, the discussions along, you know, and that's coming from those who feel disenfranchised. And, you know, let's keep the six in the mix. Let that be a consideration when that lottery comes, because I'm nervous about that, you know. Yeah.
Hey, if I could slip some extra, you know, pieces of paper with your name on them into that hat, believe me, I would when the lottery comes, because I think you know, the folks that we're talking here have the fewest, you know, lots in the lottery,
right,
as it were, and so that's a serious issue. So we're gonna start, guys. We're gonna start wrapping up, and we're going to talk about sort of the agenda going forward. Well, what do you want the message to be, and what do you all want us to try to do as a community to help land this plane in the, you know, sort of at least in the right country, if not in the right state. But before that, did anybody else have anything?
Everyone said a lot of things perfectly, to be honest. You know, we have an agenda as a whole. We're really trying to be able to get the point across that, you know, like Edie mentioned, this should have been happening in June already. It's December. We're bleeding into the next year. The spotlight has been put on the 21 that made it in. And everyone is, like she mentioned, is bickering. You know, we have a creative solution that we need to move forward with. And I'm just ready to compete, to be honest. I'm just laser focused. Everything else right now is just bickering. Let's move forward with it. We, you know, make a solution to move forward with the second round.
Got it. Kiana, did you want to add something?
Absolutely. And you know, I'm going to speak directly to the Black community and Black people, because one of the things that has been a constant, like just a pet peeve of mine, something that has really gotten to me ever since this legalization talk started happening, is all of the divisiveness and all of the separation and all the combativeness that has been thrusted upon us by the media. And it's almost to the point where, and I'll be honest, every time I've done an interview, and I used to get so mad about this because I felt like they would always get Donte and Edie in these situations too, where the question is always, and the headline is always about how Black people are being left out and how Black people are mad because they're being left out. That is not to say that there isn't some truth to that, but it's a very nuanced truth. And so I think we have to be careful as Black people and as a community to not fall for the banana and the tailpipe, right? It's a lot easier and it's a lot more exciting and juicy to be salacious, right? And to sell the negative story. But we as Black people have to recognize various tactics of white supremacy as it relates to how we're being divided and how we are being portrayed and pit against each other in this situation, right? Whoever they is, they not just keeping us out by making the shit too expensive, making the laws so strict, making this, making that. They're also using very specific mental, psychological, slave mentality type stuff to keep us in a real divisive situation. So I'm gonna say this, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm very passionate about the cannabis industry. I've been doing this for years for free. And whether this continues, whether we get these licenses or not, I've still already dedicated my life and my profession and my children's legacy to the cannabis industry. So honestly, a dispensary is like, yeah, it'd be great, but I'm gonna still be doing this. But I am gonna say this is an opportunity for us as Black people to unify, to stand with and beside each other, to learn from each other. It's a great opportunity for us to reach back. You don't have to tell Black-owned businesses to contract with other Black-owned businesses. You don't have to tell us that we need to have a certain quota or we got to give back to this community or we got to. Nobody ever has to tell us that, because that's what we do. That's what we've been doing. That's what we're going to keep doing. And we just need that level of support. And we want to get that support from our people. We're going to be looking for Black people to invest in Black people's stuff. Ain't no why y'all fighting and trying to get invited to these other tables. We trying to build a table for us to be at. And so we just need unity from our community. That's what we mean by keep the six in the mix. Be mad at whoever else is on the list that you feel like don't belong there, but don't be mad at us, because we here and we didn't do nothing shady to get here, and we ain't got no whole big backing of whoever to get us here. We trying to figure it out. We getting it out the mud just like everybody else out there. We all hustling. We just doing it in a different way. So that's all I got to say about that.
Bro, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, and I think she put that beautifully. One of the things that I'm always concerned about in our community, because, we have gone through so much in this country that you can get in the rhythm of chasing oppression, and, at this stage, I think what we're saying is, hey, chasing oppression has its place, but let's chase the market share. Because while we're chasing the boogeyman, not saying that the boogeyman doesn't exist, other people are coming in and they're gobbling up the assets, and there's going to be nothing left. The independent operator, people like the six on this line, who managed to get here however we got here, we won't be able to compete because we would have lost the gravity of time. And so we need to unify around what there is, because we're going to all lose if we don't figure out a way to bring this to a conclusion that works for everybody.
Correct.
And it's just some people going to be first and some people going to have to go afterwards. That's it. That's all.
Just like a door or a ladder or a window. Yeah. One at a time. Well, we can't all go through it once, but the difference, Ro, I think is like we were saying yesterday. If you're on the ladder, are you going to step on my fingers or are you going to give me a hand? And I'm saying that's what we're trying to do and been doing the whole time, is giving a hand. We're not stepping on anybody's fingers, and we're trying to stop people from stepping on each other's fingers, because that's what's holding us up right now.
Sorry, Craig, I apologize.
That's all right.
Something that Edie mentioned earlier sort of stuck with me, which is why I want to circle back to that. And you mentioned sort of a proposal or an idea on how to move forward. Is there a path forward? Are we asking our supporters, our community, to do anything?
We worked on, this group of 6 companies worked on a proposal. We tried to see what was standing in the way. What was that boulder? What was that roadblock? It looked to us to be all of the litigants and their claims. And so we picked each one of those apart and tried to see how we could solve each or how we could solve for each issue, each complaint. And we did. We submitted down. I think, Mark, you may even have a copy of it. We started submitting it to the legislators and to the state. And everyone seems to be in agreement with it because it solves all the issues, everyone's problem. And so we're working to try to push that narrative so that we can move, so that everyone can move.
If somebody has questions or wants to support, I mean, is there some formal way to sign on to support? Or I'm just trying to figure out if we can get our army to do anything.
I honestly, I don't know if there's time for that. It needs to, it doesn't need that. It needs to be adopted by the state.
Yeah, and that is it a legislative proposal or a regulatory one? That is,
it's both, actually. It's both. It makes a way for a second lottery, which is something that now everyone is familiar with hearing. It makes a way for veterans or non-veteran majority MVO, majority veteran-owned companies to get through. It creates a cut score or a percentage score for those who did not receive quote unquote perfect scores. So it solves all those issues.
Okay, I don't, I think this is great to talk about. It might even be a separate conversation because I don't think a lot of people widely know that an actual honest to goodness solution has been proposed. So this is like hard news. Maybe we should have started with that. But I think that perhaps we need to maybe drill down on that and have a separate conversation. So we'll invite you back. Craig, did you want to jump in again?
No, just that the plan is designed, Mark, to do exactly that.
Okay.
It's to open a logjam, and it does. If it were implemented, we would be moving.
And Mark, I will say that maybe it's not widely known is because it really didn't need to be widely known. It really only needed to be known by the people who could do something about it. So sometimes when you add all the other voices and noise into the mix, then we got a whole nother month of.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. Sometimes less is more. I see Ro unmuted himself. I don't know if Ro, you want to say something. We really wanted to also hear from Sean and Donte to take us out. But Ro, go for it. And Sean, you're next.
Yeah. Real quick, for the average person that's just watching this and you're out there and you're trying to figure out what to do, I think the purpose of this is clear. Keep the six in the mix. I know we're talking about those that's disenfranchised, but you also got your other brothers and sisters over here who have a path forward. And so keep a watchful eye, stay woke. We are depending on you guys to be the vanguard of our hopes and aspirations. And so we need you guys to keep us in your prayers and to keep the six in the mix. That's it.
I don't think we have to ask anybody to keep you in the mix. I think you are in the mix. I think you will stay in the mix. I think it would be, outlandish if you weren't in the mix. So I just want to reframe that like I have before. I don't think we need to ask anybody to do anything. You guys earned what you have, and maybe you should have more chits to throw in the hat. But yeah, the six are in the mix. So we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that that's supported. Sean, go for it.
I just want to say Ro and Edie summed it up great, but definitely keep the six in the mix. I'm right there with them.
Let's change that to pick six in the mix.
Yeah, no.
See,
right?
I think that what you guys got to get is that there's a narrative being sold. The reason why we're saying keep the six in the mix, because nobody's telling our story. It's one-sided right now. So we're trying to get people to cognitively think about the other side of the equation. That's why we're saying keep the six in the mix. I know that we're in the lottery, but we could also down the vine if nobody talks about us or knows us. That's where we're coming from.
Well, you definitely have the support of this Caucasian right here, Rose. So I'll definitely do whatever I can to make sure you stay in the mix. Sean, did you want to jump in? No, you're good? Donte, why don't you close us out? Give us some inspiration for the holidays.
Man, I don't have any inspiration, man. I'm just, all since June, I've been waiting for us to be able to get licenses. But, here we are about to get ready for the new year. You know, it feels good to be able to actually put the focus on those that have made it, that have not so much the perfect scores, but more the perfect opportunities to lead by example. We've been in this fight obviously since the beginning, and we intend on doing the best. And like Craig said, it's $1 million a month that's being made by these guys, and we know what we would do with our money, and that's invested back into the community, the Black community, being more creative with the things that we've been doing for free with throughout Chicago Normal. Just thinking about all the things that could be if we had an opportunity to compete. So I really don't have too much to say other than let's get this rolling so we can show the Illinois industry how things should be done. I think for the longest they've been scared of some minority competition, not because we're Black, is because we have we have the community, we have the bond, we have their targeted market, and that's something that you can't buy. It's just something that we support each other in magnificent ways. And with us getting into leadership and being able to be owners, we have the advantage to 50 million a month. Sorry about that, 50 million a month. We have the advantage to lead by example from day one. It's not going to take 7 years like it did the regulated market or whatnot. We're looking for ways to support Illinois in ways that this industry hasn't before.
Well,
And
Donte,
ways to support those beautiful little kids you got in the background. They don't buy your exclusive, right? Daddy's got to put food on the table, man. Figure it out.
So-
and I say that with love and respect. I got 3 of my own.
but okay, but for sure, tell your kids Merry Christmas. For all of us who have seen him at so many meetings, we feel like we know him. I think, Kiana, did you want to add something on the back and close us out?
I did. And Donte, that was very inspirational. I would love to just end on Donte's cute kids, but I do want to say something else. Before I got involved in the cannabis industry, I was not involved in any ways in politics, in any type of civic engagement. I had never lobbied. I had never even gone to Springfield except for that one time in the 8th grade or whatever when we went. I had never gone to the White House, or certainly not in the White House, walking up to some senator or some congressman's office to tell them what I think about a damn thing. So, but since being involved in cannabis, I've done those things several times. And I want to encourage everybody, but especially people of color. We can't change the system on our way in, right? Sometimes you have to figure out how things work, who has what influence, who can do what, right? And there are ways to change things, and there's ways to build pressure from the outside and inside, and we can work in different ways towards the same goal. So we have to realize that our differences in approach and our differences in tactic don't necessarily mean that we're at odds with each other, but also that, you do have to go to these politicians and knock on their door and meet with them and sit down with them and say, this is what I think about X, Y, and Z. Whether that's going to Springfield and doing it, and that ain't no easy thing. That nobody pay us to do that. We had to pay ourselves to do it, but we did it. But they also have offices in your neighborhood. They have email addresses. Everybody's doing everything through Zoom. There's no reason why we shouldn't and cannot be involved in this from a civic engagement standpoint. Cannabis is that issue, and people will start to listen to you if you talk like you got some sense, but you have to know and understand what you're talking about and who you're talking to be able to have those conversations. So don't be scared to do that. That's not selling out. That's not being a pawn for the man. That's not none of that. That is doing what is your God-given American-born citizen right to do. And your responsibility, aside from just voting and whatever else and rah-rah on Facebook and social media. So that's just all I want to say about that. I just want people to be encouraged to, to be involved.
That's a perfect closing remark to our episode, and our message is that together as a unified community, we want to work to get more people involved. That is the way and the path forward that we're going to achieve generational success for all of us. And I thank you guys for making the time and spending the hour and a half with us, sharing your stories and experiences and feelings about the industry. It's been a very powerful episode and one of my favorites yet. So thank you guys for being here with us.
And Abraham and I are going to send you resumes in case there's a janitorial or bud tender position that comes open. But seriously, thank you guys very much. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you. I think I speak for maybe all of us when I say I hope Santa brings us what we want here shortly at the beginning of January. And thank you guys.
Thank you all for the platform and the opportunity. Congratulations on all your success, Abraham, with AV Strategies and the cannabis community and all the cool things you're doing. And thank you for letting me be on your show when you used to be on my show back in the day too. So.
You're the first cannabis show and public format that I ever spoke on. I was sweaty palms in my garage doing the interview, speaking with you. And
since he looks about 18 now, he must have been like 12 when that happened.
He was.
At least 13. All right, man. Give me some credit. I've been here for a while. So. But no,
it was
full
hard
circle,
to get
man.
out there and jump out and start talking about this new thing as an industry, and so I'm so happy to have shared that with all you guys, really. I mean, we've been hanging out talking about this for years, so
and
I appreciate you having us on your show.
Well, thank you. And Donte, I'm sorry I keep mentioning your kids, but that just for some reason
they are cute.
When Donte stuck in my head. Show, he brought his wife.
But I also think if there's any demonstration of having paid one's dues, it's dragging one's young family to a year's worth of meetings. So
yeah.
Respect, my friend.
Abandoning your kids at home.
I definitely appreciate it, man. It's an honor to be able to be here, having the conversation of being active and moving the stake of ownership, and having those conversations and doing it on this platform that you guys built and watching it grow. And even further, being able for us to make this announcement of what we're trying to do, and it's legacy. That's what it's about. It's about everyone's going to talk about legalization, but everyone's really going to be talking about the first minorities that actually did it, and don't have the fear about not doing it successfully. We know what we're doing, and that's really where we set the bar high at. That's what I'm excited about, is doing it with people that have helped shaped and develop this industry, creating responsible vendor training, platforms, and not having to worry about us being marketed as the team of black angry people that didn't get a license. Because I'm pretty sure after this spread is going to spread like wildfire. The Sun Times will be pissed. But it is what it is. We're able to get this off organically and really share our stories, because that's the best part about us being those that made it and that have those original minority teams, is the fact that you've seen us all develop and grow while we got from the beginning to where we are now. So knowing that we're genuine, it's really enticing because I'll say the regulated market, the big guys, they know who we are and they know we coming for them.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But well, look, you know what? I think it's up to all of us to convince that a rising tide can really lift all boats if we just stop poking holes in them. So hopefully that's what we're going to start doing. So thank you guys for letting me participate.
Merry Christmas to you guys. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us on this exciting episode of the Cannabis Community Insider. And with that, we'll see you on our next episode. Thank you guys so much.